Well, today we are setting up some container gardens using basically what we call big blue barrels. We really like these, what you'll see in a moment, these big blue barrels, because we've done a lot of experimenting with different containers over the years. And if you have things that like a fair bit of moisture, these are great. And we're going to show you kind of what our sort of plan is here in a moment. So here we are, some blue barrels, as you can see. We've been accumulating these, and we just haven't got around to it yet. But the plan is to cut these up to basically make each one into 2 container gardens. One of them is going to be
allow me to demonstrate.
the short end, and that is going to be specifically for our onions, which leaves us with the other one, which will be deeper, and that is going to be primarily for our sweet potatoes, although we will practice some rotation. One thing about these is, at least as far as we know, these are food grade. The blue ones are food grade. And we find the blue ones are great because they also come in white, which I believe is also food grade. But the white ones we find degrade in the sun, whereas the blue ones seem to last forever. They're also a relatively inexpensive way to get a fair bit of gardening space. And as we say, we've had really good luck in the past with sweet potatoes. So for this job of cutting these apart, we're going to use a Sawzall. I believe that's what they're actually called. A reciprocating saw. I think that's the non-name brand version of it. So we're going to use one of these. Works quite well, and it goes pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead, cut these up, and then we'll bring you back when we have them all apart. All right, well, they are all cut. So as you can see, we have 2 sizes. So what we're going to do with the taller barrels is basically cut drain holes, just kind of randomly, in the bottom. This will be the bottom that sits on the ground. But on the shorter ones, we're actually going to cut them along the side, kind of right about where my finger is. And the reason for that is because onions love water. So we're actually going to use them as a semi-reservoir. Essentially, we can give the onions exactly what they want because our experiments in growing onions seem to suggest that this might be a good idea. But really, it's about that simple. We'll show you when we get some of these set up. But one of the other really nice parts about this, they're movable. If you need to move these to a new spot, you can basically move your entire barrel. Now, the bigger barrels, I will admit, if you're going to move them, you need a fridge dolly to do so. But it's completely doable, and as long as you don't mind, blue barrels.
So while Chris is busy drilling away in there, I thought I would just kind of show you some of our blue barrels in action at the moment. These ones were set up some last year, some the year before. We've constantly added soil as it's sunk down and decomposed, mulch, that sort of thing, good compost. But you can see we've got strawberries, herbs. Most of these are actually still empty, which is kind of sad for the middle of June, but they will have our sweet potatoes in them. The other thing that we often have found too that grows very well in these barrels is beets. We've got basil there, bee balm, parsley. This one again is going to end up being our either the beets or the sweet potatoes. We did some sugar beets in them last year. This one has been taken over by a black raspberry, which well, we had best intentions of removing it, but then we were like, look at all the fruit on it, so it stayed. And here is some of the Jerusalem artichokes. These are our purple ones, which we've yet to dig up, and we're kind of thinking that maybe we should have dug them up and thinned them out this year, but this was only their 2nd year in the pot. And then we've got some more little ones here, which will be for sweet potatoes. One of the things that Chris did talk about, we find that the white ones degrade a lot faster. And they just don't seem to be as sun tolerant. You can hear the cracking. That's just what we find with the white. We find that with our containers in the greenhouse too at times. But see, the blue ones, same age, you don't hear any of that cracking. So from now on, we're sticking with the blue ones. It's just the way it's gonna be.
As you can see, this one's easy because there's a line there, but it's just to create a bit of a reservoir so that you keep some water, and then this will be filled up. They'll always be able to access moisture, basically. Well, we are a few days later, and we have our barrels in place, and basically we've filled half of them, but I was just going to show you here briefly sort of what we do. If you look down into these barrels, we've essentially added fairly well broken down compost from one of our compost piles. It's not perfect, but the plan is basically to bury this. And what we've found in the past is it will continue to break down, and it usually ends up making amazing soil sort of the second year after you fill these barrels. And here is an example of a barrel that's about 3/4 full. We've added a triple mix to the top, and obviously we'll keep amending this as we go. We find that we usually can add some soil to these throughout the years until they kind of build up to a level we really want. But I've already planted 2 of these with sweet potatoes. As you can see, I have to water these a bit. But what we found in 2021 was the sweet potatoes that we grew in these blue barrels did amazing. They were big, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that even though there are holes in the bottom, it does keep a lot of its moisture. And adding the mulch on top definitely just adds to that ability of keeping moisture. So on that note, that is pretty much our blue barrel garden, or sort of how we put these together. It's very, very simple. They're portable. If you have a fridge cart, you can move them around year to year. They are an excellent way to grow sweet potatoes and a large number of other things. And they're even a good way to sort of finish off the composting of some of your fill that you're going to put in them. So definitely give it a try, and stay tuned for some future videos on how these sweet potatoes do.